I have something in common with everyone in the audience. I was a summer intern. I used to cut lawns and shovel snow when I was in high school for money. And one of my parents' friends, a neighbor, offered to refer me or give me an introduction for a job. I was as a floor clerk at the CME, and the rest is kind of history. So what I thought would be helpful, you're all beginning your careers and might not know exactly what you want to do, but what I thought would be helpful is if I just give you some tips. Tip number one is check out the view from 30,000 feet. If you're like I was when I was an intern, I kind of knew what I was doing as a clerk on the trading floor, but I really didn't know anything else about the industry. So for my benefit, what I learned over the years is there's a template that I use if I want to analyze something. It could be an industry, it could be a business, it could be a company. And this is a slide that I gave. I gave a talk at Northwestern. It was a introduction to futures class. I was a guest lecturer. And you can forget the busy work on it, but the point is I would take a piece of paper, I would write down who are the major players, what are the major products, what are the major drivers of the business, and what are the major interactions. I could use this if I was looking at the entertainment industry, which I know absolutely nothing about. I could probably use it to look at pro football. I could use it to look at a company. I certainly could use it to look at, this was futures, it's totally applicable to options or securities or insurance or anything else. So pull yourself back, start filling in the blanks. To do that, you need to ask questions, which brings me to the next slide. It's better to ask questions than no answers. Clearly, we ask questions for lots of reasons, one of which is to gain some knowledge. But I would maintain that in addition to doing that, questions are helpful for other reasons. It's a great way to begin a dialogue. It's a great way to, in a meeting, to show interest. If you ask thoughtful questions, eventually you might get a mentor who says, gee, I really like what that person was saying, very insightful, and I'd like to mentor you. So don't forget to ask questions, which leads me to something that, a book that I received from my daughter, and I'm going to preface this by saying everyone in this room should go out and buy this book. My daughter was an intern at Rosenthal Collins Group. We call it RCG. She chose not to go into her father's profession, and instead she went into communications. She's now manager at a highly regarded global public relations firm named Golan. Her CEO, so she gave me this book a month and a half ago for Father's Day. Her CEO is named Fred Cook, who wrote a book called Improvise, Unconventional Career Advice from an Unlikely CEO. This is a fantastic book. It's very easy to read. It's very unconventional, very entertaining, and you're going to learn a lot. So I've already bought 12 copies for our interns at RCG, which I think arrived from Amazon tomorrow. I'll be able to give them copies. I strongly urge all of you to do the same. Tip number 3, pretend you're a taxi, not a train. By this I mean trains go in linear fashion. We know what the schedule is. A taxi zigzags around. We don't know where it's going. If you're driving a taxi, you don't know where your next fare is going until it tells you. Your career is like a taxi. You're going to zigzag all over the place. You cannot go in linear fashion, or you should not go in linear fashion. You should kind of go with the flow. I will give you an example from my career. In the middle of my career, this is a while ago, I was recruited by a German money manager to build a futures brokerage firm for him. We did it. We got it up in record speed. It was going well. And all of a sudden, he came into town 9 months later, and he closed the firm. I had just gotten married. I just bought my first apartment, and I just had my first child. So it was a very traumatic experience. We said to him, well, can we sell the firm and find another home? He said, sure. You've got 45 days to do it. We found a large Japanese bank that was willing to buy it. And I worked for and ran a subsidiary at Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi for 15 years. So I never would have known before I walked in that door for that meeting that would happen. So just go with the flow. Tip number 4, keep your language simple. By this I mean we've got a lot of technology in our business, a lot of arcane language, and it's very important for you to keep your language simple in order not to have problems between who's ever talking. You have to keep it very, very simple. By doing that, you're going to alleviate problems, you're going to mitigate issues, and you're going to prevent any snafus. I put this cartoon up. I don't know if you can all see it, but basically it's 2 panels. The left panel talks about what we say to dogs, and we're talking in English, nice dog, and we're saying the dog's name. And the right panel is what dogs hear us say. What dogs hear us say is blah, 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 and they probably hear their name also. It's very important to keep your language simple if you want to be not only effective, but also to prevent mistakes. And in my case, just a very simple, quick example is when I was chairman of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, we had a chief information officer, head of technology, that had hundreds of people working for him and millions of dollars in his budget. And he would come into our boardroom and give a talk on something very complex, and we would understand him because he spoke simply and in English. We might not agree with the proposal or might not approve it, but we understood it. Afterwards, I complimented him and said, gee, that was fantastic. I've never seen the board react that way to technical language like that. And he said, look, thanks for the compliment, but if I can't make it understandable for you, you should fire me. So I always kept that in mind. Tip number 5, understand the power of PPT. I know PPT is the file extension for PowerPoint, and you all use it and all. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an acronym for people, process, and technology. And in this case, we have people and we have technology in any organization, but I learned this from our head, our senior executive who runs cybersecurity for us, who told me that it's process that's often overlooked, and you have to blend all 3 together or you're going to have a problem in any system. If you have time left after you read Fred Cook's book, there's a great book on process called the Checklist Manifesto, which talks about, it's written by a doctor and talks about if we could all have better processes and checklists in the operating room, we'd have a lot less problems. So if you have time, I would strongly suggest you go out and get that book. Next tip, when in doubt, check it out. And by this I mean, don't make an assumption. Too often what I find is if you're in a meeting and somebody says something, they give you a command or they ask, there's some follow-up. What ends up happening is people will tend to assume they heard it. And if they're in doubt and they say, did you say it? Did you say to do it or did you say not to do it? It's somewhat confusing. And so they'll just assume, well, I think he said, to do it or not to do it. I've seen more problems in, my entire career from somebody making an assumption. And most people, I found out over a period of time, don't ask or they don't raise their hand to say, what did you mean? Because, they're embarrassed or whatever. They think it's a sign of weakness. And I am here to tell you it is a sign of strength. I always applaud people. I don't care if I'm in the middle of a crisis and I'm barking commands and whatever, and somebody says, I just want to clarify, did you mean this or did you mean that? I would never get upset at somebody for doing that, and I would never hold it against them. It is incredibly important to double check something and not assume. Last tip, tip number 7. The conventional wisdom goes, or the conventional saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again, okay? Great advice, we're all going to fail, failure happens, and you should always, get back up and try again. In my view, more important than that is the fact that at least you tried in the first place, because to me, the trying is the key. I've had some successes in my life, and I've had a bunch of failures, some spectacular failures. And the successes are a lot nicer than the failures, by the way. But whichever you have, if it's a success or a failure, they're momentary. You can take a victory lap if you have a success, or you can take a misery lap if you have a failure. But in either case, it's fleeting, it's gone, and you better get on with your life. So the point here is, do not fear failure. I've seen it happen too often when someone, a group is getting together, they're about to make a decision, they talk themselves out of it because they're afraid of failure. So don't fear failure. And I think I have another minute, so I'm going to do a bonus tip. We all talk about work-life balance. Here's my tip for you. Give back to others, and then keep doing it. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And in order to balance work and life, okay, to do the life side of the equation, to do this side of that scale, you got to balance more than just me. It's not just me. It's my friends, it's my family, it's my community. If you have not gotten involved with a charitable organization or a nonprofit, get involved. Donate an hour, 2 hours a month. Donate $5. Do both. It will make you feel better. It will balance your life, and you will be the better for it. So let's end by going back to the beginning and go up to 30,000 feet. I was a floor clerk at the CME 44 years ago this summer. I worked on all 3 exchanges in Chicago. I was a broker, I was a trader, I started companies, I ran an exchange. And all those were like a taxi ride. If you had asked me at the previous drop-off or stop what I would be doing next, there is no possibility that I could have told you. There's no possibility. You couldn't plan what happened. 12 years ago, the 2 founders, Les Rosenthal and Bob Collins, called me up and said, will you be CEO? And I came back gladly to do it. I've been doing it for 12 years. What I didn't tell you is 44 years ago, I started at that company and worked there for 10 years, and now I'm back as CEO. So I want to thank you for letting me join you today. Think of yourselves as taxi, and good luck with all your careers. Thank you very much.